Hello, I'm going to be giving you a rundown of all the lists used in week 2 of the Super Series Genesis, and I hope you enjoy. I'm going to follow this up with some analysis of the lists and how they are going to interact with each other. So, Marauders, they're taking a Big Well list, a Gargants list, a KO list, and a Seraphon list. The Big Well list contains a Mob Boss on Mega Crusher, 2 Orc War Chanters, an Orc Weird Knob Shaman, an Orc Warlock, 2 units of Orc Arboys, 2 units of 10 Orc Arboys, 3 a unit of 3 Gore Gruntas, and 10 Orc Brutes. All of those battle line units are in an Iron Fist, and that's backed up by some chronomantic cogs and a good command point for good measure. The Gargants list, played by Rick Ellis, is going to be a Gatebreaker Mega Gargant, another Gatebreaker Mega Gargant, a Kraken Eater Mega Gargant, and 3 Man Crusher Gargants. Now we have Tony's KO boat spam. He has 2 Aether Chemists and a Celestant Prime. He also has 3 Arcanaut frigates and 6 Grunstock gun haulers. This is also has a Warp Lightning Vortex, so that will be cast from the spell in the bottle from one of the Aether Chemists. Then lastly, we have the Seraphon list, as always, which has a Croak, an Astrolith Bearer, a Skink Star Priest, another Skink Star Priest, Skink Priest, another Skink Priest, 40 Skinks, 40 Skinks, 10 Skinks, 5 Source Guard, 20 Chameleon Skinks, a Balewind Vortex, Bound Geminids, and an extra command point. Now, Legioni, they have a Gargants list, a Daughters of Cain list, a Slaanesh list, and a Tzeentch list. So, start off with their Gargants list, identical to the one on Marauders. I'm going off the assumption that this is a gentleman's agreement to bring Gargants or something, because this does not make sense. However, their Gargants list goes as follows. Gatebreaker Mega Gargant, Gatebreaker Mega Gargant, Kraken Eater Mega Gargant, 3 Man Crusher Gargants. Then, their Daughters of Cain list. Their Daughters of Cain list has Morathi, Big Morathi, Little Morathi, High Queen on Cauldron of Blood, who is also the general of a Hagnar army. I didn't explain that very well. But then they also have Morgwathi the Bloodified, and then they've got a unit of 10 Witch Elves, 10 Sisters of Slaughter, 10 Sisters of Slaughter, 4 Blade Coven. They're the extra guys that come the Wargam with Morgwathi. I've just butchered that even more. Then 15 Bloodstalkers, 9 Cainite Shadowstalkers, 9 Cainite Shadowstalkers, 5 Canary Heart Renders, and an extra command point. It's a good thing I have that on screen because you would have no idea what's going on otherwise. Then, let's see, we have Slaanesh. Okay, Slaanesh list. Chaos Sorcerer Lord on Manticore, one of the most underrated units in the game. Keeper of Secrets, 40 Chaos Marauders, 20 Chaos Marauders, 20 Chaos Marauders, 5 Chaos Marauder Horsemen, 10 Chaos Knights, a War Shrine, and that's all in the Pleasure Bound Warband. So, that'll get them low drops. And finally, their Tzeentch list. So, they have a Tzeentch list in the Eternal Conflagration. They have a Lord of Change, Blue Scribes, a Change Caster, 10 Pink Horrors, 10 Pink Horrors, 6 Flamers of Tzeentch, 3 Flamers of Tzeentch, 10 Blue Horrors of Tzeentch, 1 Burning Chariot of Tzeentch, and that's all in the Change Host Battalion, plus an Umbral Spell Portal. So, overall general thoughts on this and how they square up against each other. Okay, start with Marauders, their Big Wat list. So, this is the list with the Maw Crusher and the Iron Fist. Yeah. So, first thing I'm noticing is very low body count, which is kind of typical whenever you run a Maw Crusher. Maw Crusher takes a lot away from the lists. It's not necessarily that the Maw Crusher is bad, it's just what else you could get uh, with those points is a lot. You know, you could get an extra 20, almost 25 Art Boys instead of a Maw Crusher on Mega Boss, or Mega Boss on Maw Crusher. So yeah, it kind of takes a lot away from the army. You know, I'm looking at that wound count at the bottom, 120 wounds. Yeah, like most big WoW lists without a Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, they'd be looking closer to 200 wounds. So yeah, it just makes the list. I mean, you've got 2 units of 10 Art Boys, a unit of 3 Gore Grunters. Like, that's you're very, very light on bodies. Like, you're gonna fall over a lot more than you'd expect with an Orc list. You do have that unit of 10 Brutes. Even then, that's a 30 wounds unit. Like, and that's your biggest unit. Like, I am a little bit worried for this big WoW list, especially going up against Legiones lists, because actually 120 wound list, you know, I don't like the Gargant lists. I'm just gonna say that now, but 120 wounds, you know, like, that's something Gargants could handle. You know, Gargants could deal with a 120 wound list. If this list was closer to maybe 200 wounds, I think you'd just run over them. But yeah, but yeah, I don't like them into the Gargants that much. I don't like them into Daughters of Cain. I think Marathi is going to cause you a lot of problems, especially, you know, Marathi 1v1ing any other big monster. Marathi is going to win that fight. You've got Slaanesh. You know, Slaanesh, it's okay matchup. But that's more because Slaanesh is bad, and Tzeentch is just going to demolish you. You're not going to stand a chance against Tzeentch. So, I mean, as far as good matchups go, Slaanesh is probably your best matchup. Gargants is a maybe matchup. That one is probably tighter than it should be for a big WoW list, if I'm being honest. And then Daughters of Cain, I think in a straight up fight, I think Daughters of Cain are just going to run over you. No, they don't actually have any big units of stuff in their list. It's lots of little small units, and that's where you're going to have to sort of play the game, because technically your small units of 10 stuff are better than their small units of 10 stuff, and that's where your advantage is going to be. But they have Marathi and you have a Maw Crusher, which is going to be a big problem, because if Marathi gets into your Maw Crusher, you're probably going to lose the game. Like, especially if it's early on. You can't let Marathi get into your Maw Crusher, which also means that you're going to have to be playing very safe with your Maw Crusher. You're not going to be able to just chuck it forward easily into that matchup. And so, yeah, I'm not overly keen on how this list stacks up against the other lists. But we'll see how it goes. It is still a big WoW list after all. It is a very powerful book. It just the raw value you get out of it is just really strong. I do like the addition of a Wardock, however. The Wardock is a very, very nice addition in the big WoW list, just because of the spell he brings. Gorka Morka's Warcry is casting value 7, deal D3 mortal wounds, but that's the relevant part. Then you also make the unit strike last in the combat phase, which is for an 80 point character, you know, that's a really good spell just to have lying about. The threat of it is of being strike last. I mean, most of us are probably familiar with the activation wars and how much of a pain they were. This is still a strikes last in this army, which is going to cause a lot of problems in the combat phase if he can get it off onto a relevant unit. And yeah, it's just good for 80 points. Okay, so moving on to Gargant's list. I mean, I'm probably just going to talk about both Gargant's lists here at the same time because they are identical, nearly, other than command traits and tribe stuff. It's two gate breakers, a Kraken, and 3 Man Crusher Gargants. Look, the best way to talk about Gargants is they're going to do one thing. They're probably the easiest army in the game to play because you essentially have like 3 decisions. It's like, where do I move? where do I shoot, where do I throw my rocks, and where do I charge. And other than that, it's just rolling dice. Like you compare, I mean, compared to pretty much any other army, those are your decisions. Like you're just running forward at your opponent, and you're just gonna kill stuff, and you're just gonna mince stuff, and that's all you're gonna do. Um, for a vast number of reasons, I don't think it's a good army. For example, you have no screens. You're very very open to getting double turned. Um, yeah, I mean your wound count. I mean, even though your guys have, your 140 wounds ish, um, your guys aren't as durable as you'd think they'd be. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Yeah, because they've only got a 4-up save, and I don't think you can buff that. Okay, they're 30 wounds, but I mean, 30 wounds and a Gargant's dead. 30 wounds and a Gargant's dead. It's like, that's not a ton. It's not impossible to do. Um, but yeah, we'll see how Sons of Behemoth goes. I don't know if I've actually even seen them in a tournament before. So yeah, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but we'll find out this weekend. Okay, so KO. Okay, this is a very interesting KO list. So, 2 Alchemists, 1 with Spell in the Bottle, a Celestant Prime. I really like that. 3 Archanaut Frigates and 6 Grunstock Gunhaulers with the Warp Lightning Vortex spell to be thrown out of Spell in a Bottle. Okay. So, I remember whenever the Grunstock Gunhaulers got their points drop, and I was thinking, wait, could you potentially spam them in a list? Like, would that be viable? And you can spam them in a list, but whenever you sort of run the numbers on comparing the spamming Gunhaulers compared to just stacking an Ironclad full of stuff, you're better off with the Ironclad. And that can maybe taking like 1 or 2 Gunhaulers rather than just spamming stuff. However, the Stack the Ironclad build was kind of banned because Thunderers were banned. So I quite like this list. I love the Celestant Prime edition just to be able to finish things off and get into combat. Another thing to note is the Gunhaulers, they can potentially charge in, and whenever they charge on a 2-up, they deal D3 mortal wounds. So, I mean, if you got a lot of them charging in, you could maybe do 8, 10 mortal wounds, maybe 12, like, that's pretty good. How's this list going to play into other things? I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I've ever seen ship spam KO. Like, the most I've seen on the table was 6, and that had an Ironclad. It's definitely not with a Celestant Prime. But Celestant Prime is it's just a good unit. It's good at finishing things off. Into the Gargants. I don't know if you could kill a Gargant at a turn with this. I don't think you'd have the damage. I reckon a Stack the Ironclad would barely kill a Gargant a turn. Yeah, I don't think you could kill a Gargant with this. I mean, maybe if you charge the Celestant Prime in, but do you want to get into combat with the Gargant? Depends how low he is. Daughters of Cain. Yeah. Morathi's going to be a big problem with you because you're not going to be able to deal 3 wounds. You're only going to be able to shoot her. You're not going to be able to deal 3 wounds to her that easily in their turn. So Morathi takes 3 wounds a turn, and obviously there's 2 turns in a battle round. So if you're only able to deal damage to Morathi whenever it's your turn from shooting, and in combat on their turn, you're probably not going to be able to deal 3 wounds to Morathi, even if you do get to attack, which is probably unlikely. So I think Morathi will cause this list a lot of problems. I wouldn't see Morathi going down till bare minimum turn 3, and that would be like late second half of turn 3. Probably turn 4 till Morathi went down in that game. Other than that, I think the list is quite well. It's going to be. it will be able to deal with all of those little sort of just poking and prodding units, which the Daughters of Cain have. You know, they just throw units across the board, and this KO list is going to be able to deal with that very well. They're going to be able to just teleport all around the board, and you know, you're here. Okay, I'll teleport over there. I'll kill you. Next turn, teleport over here, kill you. The biggest problem for them is going to be dealing with Marathi in that matchup, and yeah, that'll be a tight game if it happens. I'm not sure how that one would go. Slanesh, yeah, let me have a look at the Slanesh list again. Yeah, Slanesh, you're going to struggle to shift that block of 40 Marauders like that. You wouldn't shift that in a turn. And maybe someone would fleet a Battle Shock if they didn't command point it. But, yeah. But, I mean, how is that... I don't know if that Slanesh list will be able to sort of deal damage back to you that easily. The Keeper of Secrets could. I think your first priority there would be the Keeper of Secrets. And then while you're on the turn you're killing the Keeper of Secrets, try and chip a bit of damage into the Chaos Marauders and soften them up, and then the following turn go for the Marauders. Chaos Sorcerer Lord is going to be irrelevant in that game because his Chaos Sorcerer Lord's signature spell Horde Clearance is going to be completely irrelevant in that game because you have one model in every unit, and he's doing mortal wounds based on how many models you have in your unit. So that's not going to be great for them. I think you take that Slanesh list easy. I think this Slanesh list is going to be taken easy by most things, but I'll talk about that in a bit. Tzeentch, yeah, Tzeentch. So, right, here's the thing with the Tzeentch game. You're going to be able to tear apart their flamers, right? But you're going to struggle to shift their pink horrors. So if their pink horrors take turn 1, which they can do because they'll outdrop you by loads, by like literally millions. Their pink horrors take turn 1, set up on the objective. They throw their flamers forward, you know, like YOLO, because they're going to be dead no matter what they do in the following turn. Maybe kill a boat or something. And yeah, it's going to come down to, in this specific mission, can you get far enough ahead on points quick enough before they have the time to shift you? Because, like I say, there isn't a ton of damage in that actual list. So, we'll see if that... Yeah. That matchup, in my opinion, will come down to the mission. Like, that the mission will define this matchup because it will be dependent on how long can the horrors hold out on the objective before the KO can shift them. You know, if it's turn 5, it's way too late. You know, if it's turn 3, they might be able to claw it back. You know, so we'll see how that unfolds. Seraphon list. Yeah, slightly different Seraphon list than most people are used to seeing. No salamanders and 20 chameleon skinks instead. Also, only one unit of 10 skinks. I don't mind this, but it's going to be quite... You're going to have to be very conscious of your positioning in general. Because your 40 skinks are going to have to be used quite defensively. You know, you're not going to be able to go too far forward with skinks. I mean, you can't go that far forward with skinks in general because they need to be buffed by the skink star priest and the skink priest to be effective. And I'm not... I mean, look, I think you're running Seraphon, you're going to get 3 wins with this list. I'm not overly... I mean, this wouldn't be the build I'd take, but I think you're just going to get 3 wins with this Seraphon list, especially since your opponent doesn't have a Seraphon list. This is just going to be 3 easy wins. And yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to deal with it. The Chameleon Skinks is interesting. I'm interested to see how they will perform. Bound Geminids is just going to... I mean, yeah, it's going to cause problems for... I mean, KO... Or no, not K. It's going to cause problems for a lot of things. Bound Geminids at 70 points is just stupidly low. But anyway, I will not rant on about Seraphon. Um, Legioni, they have Gargants. So their Gargant list exactly the same thoughts as Marauders. Um, it's it's not it's not a great list, but up against Marauders, I reckon their Gargant list will give that Urk War Clans list a game. I think we all probably want to see the Gargant mirror match. KO, I think they'll give KO a game too. Seraphon will just they will yeah they will just murder you. Um, yeah. So I mean, I actually think in this situation, I think the Marauders team is surprisingly susceptible to Gargants. Um, Specifically their Big Wa, their KO lists, and then the Gargant mirror match is obviously a interesting game. I have no idea how they'll. I don't think I've seen one Gargant list play out on a tournament, let alone two on the same table. Um, so yeah, we'll see how that plays out. So Daughters of Cain list. Yeah, you're kind of relying on Marathi for all your damage. Um, I mean, you've got 15 Bloodstalkers in the list, and they're essentially going to shoot in the hero phase and the shooting phase. And I mean, they're not going to put out that significant damage. It's not going to be like, yeah, it's not. They're not like Raptures or Stormcast Raptors or whatever. But it's a fair amount of damage, especially combined in a sort of fairly heavy combat army like Daughters of Cain. Daughters of Cain are going to they generally lack range, and sort of giving them that range, giving them the range gives them a lot much more options in how you play them, especially combined with Marathi to get the hero phase shooting. That's just some nice synergy. Cainite Shadow Stalkers are just really good teleporting around the board and harassing stuff. 10 Witch Elves, 10 Sisters of Slaughter, 10 Sisters of Slaughter. I'd have loved to see one block of 30 in this list. Just one block of 30 Witch Elves. Um, yeah. I think you're just relying insanely heavily on Marathi for your damage output. I don't see what your options are other than Marathi. I think you're relying on Marathi to do a lot of the heavy lifting. I mean, she can definitely do the heavy lifting. It's just you're relying solely on her. I would have loved to see another block of 30 just to kind of share the load. Especially you've got Morgweth. So, I mean, you could have stuck Witch Brew on them, and you could have had the Hag Queen on Cauldron follow the 30 block around and babysit them. I personally, I would have liked to see that, but this is kind of a different style where you're sort of using these Cainite Shadow Stalkers to sort of harass things around the board, just teleporting all around, in combination with the Heart Renderers, the Bloodstalkers shooting to harass stuff from range, and then Marathi to just go in and cleave stuff. So that's how this list is going to play out. And finally, or not finally, the Slaanesh list. Slaanesh, I really don't like. So I mean, I don't like bringing Slaanesh in the first place. As a Slaanesh list, it's fine. It's I haven't exactly studied the meta on Slaanesh lists, but yeah, I don't love how this matches up against the Marauders. I think the Orcs will run over this list. I think the Gargants will probably run over this list. I think KO is going to pick it apart if it goes for the Keeper first, chips a bit into Marauders, then finishes off the Marauders. Your KO is probably your best matchup. I mean, I think that game could probably go either way. But, yeah, I don't. And then into Seraphon, I mean, if it was me, I'd be looking to bust this Slanesh list against Seraphon. I don't think this list matches up well against any of the Marauders. I think you probably want to try and take the Seraphon out if you can. So finally, Eternal Conflagration Tzeentch. So you've got 9 Flamers of Tzeentch. 9 Flamers of Tzeentch, and you're essentially just going to buff them up and hide them behind pink horrors. And you're going to play like a hammer and anvil style, where you have glass cannons in the Flamers and then pink horrors in front of them to tank for them. So, range things is going to cause this list problems. So that will be your Seraphon list is going to cause this problems, and your KO list. Those are the 2 lists that are going to cause this list problems. And then the other 2 lists, this list will just walk all over them. This list will melt Gargants and it will melt Bigwa. They don't have the range to be able to kill your Flamers without getting past your horrors first. And those horrors are just going to tie you up to the point where by the time you're free of the horrors, your entire army will be dead. There was some debate on stream, so we're kind of past that's the analysis. That's what I think of all the lists. But there was some debate on stream as like, how do Tzeentch match up against Seraphon? Basically, the Eternal Conflagration Tzeentch, it's a much easier list for them to play. Seraphon's going to be the onus is on going to be on Seraphon to not make a mistake. Seraphon have the ability. Seraphon should win that game if they play perfectly, because they have to just. You have the ability to kill their Flamers, and if you deploy your Skinks correctly, so you just backboard your Skinks and protect them in a way that try and protect them in a way that allows. How do I explain this? Yeah, you just backboard the Skinks so that they're far enough back not to be shot. However, this Seraphon list doesn't actually have any screens, so that's going to be interesting to see how he handles this matchup, because Tzeentch will be able to take turn 1. They'll be able to kill about 40 Skinks. And then the Seraphon turn's going to come around and they're going to kill all the Flamers. And once those Flamers are dead, I think the Seraphon player will just cruise to victory. I think, because he's got 2 blocks of 40, 9 Flamers on average will do about 45 wounds at -1 rend. I play a lot of Tzeentch, so I know the stats on that. You'll be able to lift 1 block of 40, but the other 40 will remain. Then the Seraphon turn will come round and they will clean you up. They'll take out your Flamers with spells, long range, and then the Skinks will go into they'll shoot over the horrors into the Flamers too if they can, but they'll go in and clean up the Flamer. They'll go in and clean up the horrors on the objectives fast enough so that you won't be able to snowball an advantage. So I think Seraphon will win that game too. No, it's definitely winnable for the Tzeentch player, but the onus is going to be on the Seraphon player to not make a mistake in that game. And that's my analysis. This has been longer than I expected, but thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.